Dr. Seuss. You know who Dr. Seuss is?
Yes.
How would you describe Dr. Seuss? If somebody's like, oh, what? Who's Dr. Seuss? How would you describe Dr. Seuss?
It's a good question. I think like classic, quirky, like children's stories, but
Yes, exactly.
maybe he wrote things other than children's stories. I actually don't know.
Well, that's a good point. Like, there was, I think, like one of my friends in high school gave me a book, all the places you'll go.
Yeah.
Like when I was graduating or something like that. I remember she told me that like it was like, oh, a lot of people get these, like a lot of people get this book for graduation, or it's like kind of a celebratory book. And I don't know if it's written for kids or if it is like kind of higher metaphor, but
Yeah.
I definitely consider Dr. Seuss a children's author, I would say, but
Right.
Maybe there's some deeper, like higher level meaning there. But I think there are a lot of things like, The Grinch Who Stole Christmas and Horton Hears a Who and all these things that it's like it makes sense for children or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Now, here's what I find kind of interesting, because when you're a child, I feel like well, actually, here maybe it's the misconception I'm making about children, because for some reason I find it amazing that children actually do understand a lot of kind of complex things, and maybe it's because of their lack of bias. Like, I guess when
Right.
you're older, right, you've gained a lot of bias, and things maybe get even more confusing because you're introducing those biases into your understanding of something, right? It's like if you wash a plate in a certain way for like 30 years of your life, and then tomorrow somebody says, oh, by the way, washing your plate like that is not actually doing any good. You need to wash it this way. And that's really hard for you to understand because you've been washing it for 30 years. Whereas if you're a kid and you've never washed a dish in your life, you're probably very, very accepting of that. So what I find interesting about Dr. Seuss is like when you hear like I think it's called Horton Hears a Who, right? That's one of his things.
Yeah,
his
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, Horton Hears a Who, right? And I think Whoville isn't that where in The Grinch Who Stole Christmas, like the little Who
Yep.
guys,
Yep.
Whoville, right? I have to
Are
imagine
they
that
connected? Are those things like, is that the same universe?
I don't know, but that would be kind of an interesting thing to think about.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be interesting, right? But I have to imagine that that's got to be kind of confusing for some kids that these things are named after a pronoun, right? It's kind of like is it Abbott and Costello? They're kind of they have a famous like comedy play where it's like who's on first.
Okay.
I'm sure
I
you've heard of
don't,
it.
but it sounds familiar. But
You have to, yeah. Well, it's like one of these things where it's like these two guys talking, and it's like they're on a baseball. They're on a baseball team, and the coach is like, "Oh, yeah, we're about to do this. Who's on first?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, who's on first?" And he's like, "No,
Right.
I'm telling you who." And then so the idea is that the guy is named Who, and then it kind of goes on from that. And so that's kind of a funny joke as an adult because you're like, "Oh, I get it now. Like it's not the pronoun. It's the person who's named that or whatever." But I think as a kid, that's got to be kind of confusing. And I feel like, Dr. Seuss is trying to make this kind of cute and kind of like, kind of like, oh, this is whimsical because we're going to name it like it'd be like him putting characters as like me and you and like him and her and all this stuff, and it's like, oh no, those are the characters' names. And I think,
Right.
I don't know. I found that might be kind of confusing for kids. And maybe a good chunk of our audience as well.
Yeah. I mean, they're not. I feel like they're, like you said, they're children's stories, but I feel that they are kind of smart enough to be pretty wide reaching, right? And so like
Yes.
because there is like, I guess I don't know what you call that. There's it's not a riddle, but it's not just a straightforward story, right? There's like kind of like he writes in a very I guess it's riddles, right? Like
kind of like poems almost because they kind of rhyme and they kind of.
yeah. So it's like,
But
you
sorry,
can't
are
take
you
it
saying like in riddles in terms of like you don't exactly get what he's saying? Like it's kind of like.
you can't take it at literal value, I guess.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, I guess like if you're not old enough to understand the concept of like non-literal speech, I guess,
Yeah.
then yeah, I could see that.
Maybe that.
So maybe
is his
they're not even
brilliance.
children's stories. Maybe
Yeah.
they're just grown-up stories disguised as children's stories.
Yeah, who knows? All right, welcome everybody to episode 56 of the ETC podcast, your one-stop pod for entertainment, technology, and cars. My name is Casey Lee, and sitting across the city from me, as always, is
Aaron Sedenkar.
And if you looked very closely at the YouTube video of this episode, those last kind of 3 minutes of the 3 minutes leading up to that intro, you could see me kind of eyeing off screen and looking at the computer because I was flipping to our website to figure out what episode number this was because I had forgotten. It is season 7, episode 2, episode 56, and we are back on Thursday nights now for season 7.
Right. That's right.
That's just how we do it. We mix things up, Definitely.
Yep. Thursday's the new Wednesday.
Yeah, exactly. And remember, like last season, we kept talking about mixing things up with like Aaron's noggin and all this stuff. Now we're just mixing up the day. So definitely check us out Thursday nights, YouTube video and podcast. We had 18 listens of our last episode, so pretty good return considering we didn't really advertise it.
Yeah.
But speaking of kind of stats and stuff like that, I have some interesting news actually. And I probably should have brought this up. Let me, Aaron. Why don't you? This is again. I'm taking a very relaxed approach to this season. I'm even like sitting further back and lower in my seat.
Yeah.
But there's definitely. let me just bring this up here. There is something really interesting I want to bring up. But as I bring that up, Aaron, can you entertain the troops, as it were?
Well, I everything, I'm not claiming to be that much more prepared, but all the things that I have to talk about today are, again, Apple related. Not a big surprise, but for whatever reason, there's a lot of Apple news to kind of talk about.
What's interesting is I had a little bit of Apple news, but I was actually. I've grown as a person and said, maybe we don't need to talk about this on the podcast.
I have not. Or at least I've grown so much that I've come back around to we have to talk about Apple stuff every
Okay, but before we get on to that, I do want to read this interesting email that we got. So first of all, we got one email from another kind of podcast platform called Verbal, VURBL. So they're a streaming podcast service. Now, I don't know if our listeners know out there. I don't know if people in general know, but podcasts are not streaming audio. Podcasts are always a downloaded file onto your device. So you can't podcasts are generally very small in size, so you don't really notice. Like generally, by the time you've listened to like 30 seconds of the podcast, the whole file is downloaded anyways.
Right.
But it's not true streaming in the sense that, like, when you watch a streaming video, if you skip ahead to like 30 minutes in, it doesn't technically have to download the first 30 minutes for you to listen to it. Streaming like chunks it up into small pieces and stuff. And so there's a podcast station or podcast platform called Verbal that if we put our podcast up on there, we can claim our station, we can get streaming podcasts. So that I don't know about, but this is what intrigued me. This is what intrigued me. So definitely business related in terms of like people like trying to get our business. But I have to imagine that this may be a little bit true, but I don't know. I'm skeptical because I went and verified a little bit and I didn't see anything. But listen to this. It's from Carlos. Sounds
like a real name.
Yeah.
Yep.
From this company called Pod Status. Okay, so he's kind of advertising his thing. So, hope all is well. So, hello, how's it going? Hope all is well. I have some cool information that might interest you. Now, This is the cool information.
I mean, who doesn't like cool information?
Yes. I've never heard of information that's been described as cool, Your podcast, the ETC podcast, has good performance in Apple Podcast rankings in the last 30 days. Position 183 in the category of tech news in Canada.
Okay, I mean, that's sort of believable. Like, you didn't throw out like 30th and tech news in Canada.
In Canada, so it's probably pretty small,
very specific.
Yeah. But so here's the thing: I went on another website to see if I could look this up, and I went back a day or two, and there was no sign of us in the top 200.
Oh,
And
so
it was
you can actually look at the
yeah,
rankings.
and again, I don't know where this comes from. And it is in the last, like he said, in the last 30 days. So this could have been like 15 days ago, whatever. But there are sites that aggregate the Apple ratings, and I did
Right.
specifically look for, Tech News Canada, and we were nowhere to be seen, which seems more right. Like that seems more correct.
Yeah.
But I have to imagine that the fact that he was so specific, 183 in Tech News in Canada, like maybe,
Yeah.
which if it is that's pretty good.
You, ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the 183rd most popular tech and what was it?
Tech News.
Tech
Most
news podcast in Canada.
In Canada, exactly.
But
Courtesy
probably
of
only
Air.
last week, not maybe not this week.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and the site that I went to verify this on, they only showed the top 200. So maybe
Right.
the top 200 are the only ones they kind of like track or whatever. I mean, again, this is another site that I looked at. But the fact that, I don't know, I want to believe that at some point we were on the charts for Tech News
So what
Canada.
what was there like was there a follow up to that? Was it just like, hey, here's some cool information, like see ya, or was there something after that?
Yeah, so right after that it says this data is provided by podstatus.com.
Okay.
And so if you go to podstatus.com, it's like this website to kind of
Yeah.
track your rankings and all this stuff
Okay.
like that, right? So
Okay, cool. I feel like we just inadvertently advertised for them.
yeah. Exactly.
You're welcome, Carlos.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it wouldn't be bad to kind of start monitoring, our stats and stuff like that. But yeah, so I found that kind of interesting. So
That's okay. That's neat. Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, let's get to the news here. So you got some
Yes.
Apple news, you said.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch. I'll start with this again, very timely because we're on the hot topics every week. There's a new iOS beta coming out, as there is like every few months.
Hold on, but before you
yeah.
go on, I lied. There was one piece of Apple news that I was going to talk about, and I bet you this is it.
And this
Anyways,
may be
continue.
it. Yeah.
Continue. Yeah.
So you and I and probably a lot of people have Apple devices that unlock with our faces, right? Since last year, if you wear a mask, very difficult to unlock. It wouldn't recognize you.
Annoyingly difficult.
Yeah, because then it's you can type in the passcode.
But what are we, cavemen? What are we?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people were complaining about the using Touch ID, which was in the previous generation of phones, right?
Yes.
Like a lot better in that situation because it doesn't rely on your scanning your face. And some people had workarounds. Like I don't know if you saw, there was a YouTube video I was meaning to try, I never got around, where like you set up Face ID again, and what you do is you take the mask off half your face and do a scan. Put your mask back on, take it off your other half, do another scan, and then apparently it can work.
That's crazy.
But anyways, not very like intuitive, right?
Yeah.
So apparently, and I haven't tried it out yet, I don't have the beta yet. The latest version of iOS now has Face ID that can unlock the phone with your mask on. Now, I don't know all the details because why would I go read, and do proper research? But one really neat thing, I don't know if you have more details, is apparently, I don't know if you need an Apple Watch or it just uses that to help this. But apparently the key thing here is that similar to how I think they introduced at some point, you can unlock your Mac, right, with your watch.
Yes.
It actually works in conjunction. So maybe you know more about this than I do, but that's the extent of what I know.
I don't. I literally have a headline. I had a headline that you can unlock with your mask now. I didn't even know it works with your phone or your watch.
I skimmed the one article. That could be wrong, but that's what I caught from one, which makes sense, right? Like because I have to imagine that if they're making it so that you can only have less than half your face scanned, it's probably going to lower the security, right? Because they have to be more loose, right? So the watch part is brilliant. The fact that they use that as like the fact that you're wearing it, and I think it's basically the watch has to be on you, detecting a heart rate, and you previously have to unlock it before, which makes sense because I think, like typically most people would put on their watch in the morning, right? Before they put on their mask potentially, and then it'd be unlocked. But yeah, it's super smart. Like, and I think it's one of those things where, again, it's just classic what Apple can do, integrating, like it's sort of like vertically integrating all the things you own, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because again, like they didn't own that integration with the watch, right? And the watch wasn't so popular. So I'm interested to see if this only works if you have a watch. And if you don't, I don't know what happens. But anyways, that's probably one of the best updates I've seen in a while on iOS, just because it's so annoying unlocking a phone with a mask on.
Yeah. Now I will be. I mean, I probably definitely go out less than you do these days, and you already don't go out that much.
I don't go out, but the few times, right? And usually when you go out, like there's a lot of times where I need my phone because I'm like picking up something, right? It's like some sort of online order or something, or pickup, right?
Yeah.
And so it's just like, it's very noticeable when you go out with that.
Yeah, no, it's definitely. It's definitely very noticeable. I mean, I may as well stay on the Apple news. I mean, I wasn't going to bring this up, but like, so that's definitely interesting and very useful. Very with the times. I'm kind of trying to mix some kind of connection here. So on the opposite end of the spectrum of things that are very useful and things that you need for your day-to-day life, like security and wearing a mask and all this stuff.
Right.
On the opposite end of the spectrum. If you just purchased your $750 Canadian AirPods Pro Max, one of the big complaints about it is that it doesn't really have a case, right? It's got this kind of weird, kind of rubber flappy thing that holds it together, and there's a magnet.
The purse, right? I think people have been calling it that.
Is that what they call it? Yeah, okay.
The AirPods Max purse.
I'm
it
surprised
kind of looks like it. Yeah, you're right. It's not a case. It looks like a holder, or like
it looks like
something you carry,
like a thin piece of styrofoam, like I almost want to say like something you put a water bottle in, like kind of that really thin kind of styrofoam kind of material, or like almost like what kind of biking gloves are made out of, stuff like that.
It remind me of like, and you never use, like I feel like everyone just throws it away or loses it. But when you get sunglasses, the really flimsy case it comes in.
Yeah. It's kind of stuff like that
without
right?
the top or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's do you know the company Pad and Quill?
Sounds familiar.
I don't really know them, but anyways, they have released, a really kind of nice leather bag or pouch for your AirPods Pro Max. So that seems kind of nice, and it seems kind of, again, if you're spending $750 Canadian on that,
does this cost more than the AirPods?
No. It's not too bad. It's not too bad. It's $130 for this kind of leather pouch case, which, I mean, that is expensive, but again, it's kind of the market that you're in, right? But what I find kind of funny though is at the same time, so the AirPods Pro Max case, it's nice. It's kind of like a leather bag with a nice zipper, and kind of looks like almost like a nice leather laptop bag. But at the same time, this company also released this thing called the Little Brief for AirPods Pro. And what it is, it's this like mini like leather briefcase for your AirPods Pro. And if it was just a case, it would look fine. But it actually is like a mini briefcase where you can lift the flap up, and there's a little handle on it.
That's hilarious.
So yeah. But and not crazy. It's $50, but I guess that's American, so it's pretty pricey. But yeah, definitely check it out. The Little Briefcase for AirPods Pro. It's more funny just to see the little hand holding the.
That sounds like it's a pure fun thing, because I don't know what the use case for having a little briefcase case for your AirPods Pros are.
Can you imagine like sitting down at a coffee shop or whatever, taking out your laptop, and then you take out this little
because
bag?
Do you have to open it and then open the AirPods again?
Yeah.
So it's like two steps.
Yeah, you open the flap and then it shows the AirPods Pro, and then you can open up the case of that. So
That's
Twitter.
That's funny.
Twitter has a new font. Have you heard of this?
Oh no.
Yeah. So Twitter is completely redesigning apparently their interface. And as part of this redesign, they have, I guess, created and are introducing a brand new font called Chirp.
So that's very that's on brand, definitely.
Yeah, exactly. So,
So is this like what they use in like what they will use in their app and everything? And
I'm assuming so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be weird if they just introduced it and hoped that people would use this new font. I mean, companies have definitely done weirder things, but yeah, I think what it is like it's part of their whole it must be part of their brand, must be part of like the font they use in the UI. Yeah, so they're doing a big overhaul, but yeah, apparently the big news with that is the Twitter Chirp font.
Nice.
Our friend Dave also messaged us, but I don't know. Did you see his tweet or did you see this? Okay,
No,
I don't.
no.
I don't know how to take this. Like, let me ask you. Let me ask you because I'm gonna read this and then because I want to see if you had the same reaction that I had.
Sure.
So he
And
tweeted,
did he? Sorry, he tweeted at like our
he tweeted
podcast.
he tweeted at our podcast.
So like disclaimer here: if you tweet at the podcast, we have full rights to talk about whatever we want and call you out and dissect your tweet. So go ahead.
No question, absolutely no question. Okay, let's see here. This is what he said. You know, it's interesting. I feel like I actually have a lot to talk about today, but it's all on a computer, so I'm all like taking this.
We're just
time
doing it live. This is
exactly.
live.
Okay, here I found it. Okay, so it's our friend Dave, and he says at the ETC podcast. Also, I should mention this is February 2nd.
Okay.
This is
just 2 days ago. Yeah.
Yeah, 2 days ago.
Yeah.
At the ETC podcast, do your thing. And he just posted a link to Porsche Taycan 4S from Porsche, like .com, Porsche Canada.
Okay. I mean, what is our thing exactly? Like,
right.
Our thing is we'll talk about it with very, very like little research and just surface opinions on things.
Yes.
And comment, which I thought we already did. We not do that though? Like
exactly. That's my point. That is my point. Like, did we not cover this already?
Yeah.
Did we not do this already? I mean, granted, that whole bit was more about the Tesla.
Yes. Yeah, but we did touch on the Taycan. I think, and okay, how do you pronounce it? Because I've heard Taycan. I've also heard Taycan. I've heard Taycan more from like legitimate like sort like reviews and stuff. They keep calling it Taycan. So I don't know if you know.
I always pronounced it Taycan until last week when you pronounced it Taycan on the podcast. So then I switched my pronunciation this time.
I hope you're happy, Dave. This is the level of like journalism that. So maybe someone can tell us what it is.
Well, yeah, I don't actually. And you do. I mean, I've noticed you do the German pronunciation of Porsche. Right, like you do Porsche.
I mean, the only reason is because I actually thought it was just Porsche until I heard a bunch of Germans say it, and I'm like, that's actually how you say it.
But okay, this is my thing about that though. Like, how do you pronounce NOTRE space DAME?
What?
How do you pronounce NOTRE space DAME?
Oh, that's the church or school or football team, whatever it is.
Yes.
Notre. I don't know. I don't know. Dame. It's not like I say it.
Like, do you pronounce it? Do you pronounce it Notre Dame or do you pronounce it Notre Dame?
I'm trying to think of all the times I've said it, which is very few. I know it's probably because it's French, so I should I should probably be pronouncing it the French way. But I'm sure, yeah.
But here's my thing though, like, and I will say I break this rule a lot. But my thing is, if you're speaking English, you almost kind of take the English pronunciation of things. So like for me, like Notre Dame, right? It's like the Notre Dame football team, right? Like the people who formed it in Notre Dame, Notre Dame football. So I pronounce it Notre Dame. If I'm speaking French, then I say Notre Dame. And I kind of use the same thing with Porsche. Like if I'm speaking English, I'll say Porsche. And if I'm speaking German, which I never do, I would say Porsche. But now that being said, I violate that rule a lot because when I speak English and I say Chinese words, I definitely I don't say char siu, I say ta siu because of the Cantonese pronunciation versus the kind of more.
But I think there's a difference, and maybe that doesn't apply for Notre Dame. I think isn't there not a difference between, because some things actually have an English version, right?
Yes.
And then you would say it in that. So I always assume maybe Notre Dame was just the English version of the French one, whereas I don't know if there's an English version of Porsche.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But I really think though, it's coming from a mispronunciation of the original.
I just always assumed it's just people didn't know how to actually say it for any of these things. And it just you just hear from one person and then the next person beside you says it. And it's just,
Well, I remember my friend Rob, one thing that always sticks with me. So, Patrick Roy or Patrick.
Yep.
Roy, Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah.
Right. So, Don Cherry used to always pronounce it Patrick Roy.
Right.
And I remember Rob saying he likes that because most people butcher the French pronunciation of his last name. Like when I was growing up, I would say Patrick Roy, like WAH. But it's not wah, right? It's like roi. It's a rolling R, right?
Okay, yeah.
And so he respected that. If you just are gonna butcher the pronunciation, just pronounce it in kind of like the way that you naturally. And
that's
that
a good point.
It's
a good point. And then Montreal, it's not probably the. So maybe that's a good example too, right? Like it's in French, that's not how you would say it. It's not. That's not. You don't pronounce it Montreal, right? So.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's tough to say though because
I love how we took. We're not talking about anything
Dave,
about the cards.
Dave, we did our thing.
Yeah, exactly. Hope you're happy, Dave. No, I think I don't know what else to say. I feel like we did talk about it quite a bit last week. I don't think I have anything new to say. I mean, I know they're coming out with a base model in the U.S. that they're not here. So there's
which by the way you covered last week as well.
Oh, okay. So there's really nothing. There's really nothing else to talk about.
So I wonder if we caught Dave. I wonder if he did not listen to our podcast within 6 hours of us posting it.
That's probably that probably is the most logical explanation.
And being our quote unquote official promoter, you would think he would have listened to it. In those are. The best part about this actually is that it's really easy to argue with Dave through this medium because he has no way to argue back right now.
And this is going to get better because while we're on this topic, I'll take even one more level of Dave-ness.
Yes.
And we did touch on it a little bit, like that the potential Apple car, right? I think that was in our electric car conversation. It seems like that is getting more serious and official, and I don't know. I don't think Apple has officially announced anything, and they won't for a while. But they've made some sort of manufacturing agreement with a few companies, and I think one of them is either Kia or Hyundai. Although they might just be the same company. I always forget. But they made some sort of manufacturing agreement with their current battery technologies and stuff like that. But one really interesting, because I had another unrelated, but also Apple, they again unannounced, but they're potentially coming out with a VR, like a really high end VR headset.
Apparently,
but one really,
apparently $3,000 with 8K displays in it is the kind of rumor right now.
It's supposed to be high end, whatever that means, the high end on the high end of VR systems. So all that to say, I saw a really interesting, I think, tweet or something where apparently the percentage of R&D spend relative to profit. So every company, a business makes money, and then they can spend a certain amount of that in pure research and development, right? Apparently, the ratio of how much money they make to research is close to the highest it's ever been in the entire company's history. And again, they're public companies, so have to release kind of some of these general stats, even if they're not releasing what they're working on. They still have to release like, hey, we spent this much, right? This quarter. So that's really interesting because it's sort of like
highest R&D to profit or highest profit to R&D?
R&D to profit. So a bigger chunk of basically all the money they make is being used on R&D
going into
now.
R&D.
And it's been a big ramp up over the last 2 years or so. So there's a lot of rumors here. It's like, what would take up that much money, right? And so obviously, developing a vehicle would, VR potentially too. But yeah, it's interesting because I feel like, again, if you were to ask me a year or 2 years ago, it seemed like there wouldn't be a good answer to like, what is the next big Apple product, right? Like it's like, oh no, they're making iPhones, they're making maybe some wearables, but there wasn't anything big on the horizon, right? Not like when they introduced like the iPhone or even the iPad and things like that. So that's interesting. I think like it seems like maybe we're at the beginning of a pretty big like phase of new products from Apple that are completely brand new, right? Like again, a vehicle would be completely new territory. VR headset would be completely new, and also new in a way that like. It's like you and I are like, as much as we have Apple products, we have like, I don't have VR system, right? Many Apple owners don't have an electric car. So it's like a whole new category of products, but it'll be interesting. It might take a while for us to kind of see what those things are, but some pretty crazy products if those are true.
Well, I read a headline too today that Hyundai, I think, was saying that the Apple car I think the grammar was a little wrong on it, but basically what the headline was like, it's being designed with no driver in mind, basically.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Which means, again, the release would probably be quite down the line.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, if they're designing a completely driverless car, right? I mean, I know we're getting there, but I think like as a, mass market release, which, Apple stuff generally is.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like that's quite down the line. So, all right, we're going to take a small break, but we'll be right back after this. And we are back on episode 56 of the episode. 56 of the episode. That's completely wrong. Episode 56 of the ETC podcast, season 7, episode 2. If you want to get in contact with us, please email us at podcast. Just, you know it. You got it. You guys know what to do. Forget it. Abandon
Click on
ship.
the links.
Yeah.
Click whatever digital device.
Smash that subscribe button. Yeah, you guys figure it. I'm done. I'm done putting an effort into this, guys. You guys just do it. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Go tell people to subscribe for us.
Yeah. No, I'm obviously joking. I love all you guys. I'll work hard for you guys.
Have we got any? We haven't got any new 2021 correspondence yet.
No, we haven't actually. But again, to be fair, I don't think a lot of people even knew we were coming back. So I think we were very lax on that. So what? Hey, all the power to you guys being relaxed and enjoying 2021 and taking your time to email us. That's totally cool.
Yeah. But we do like to hear from you. So
no question. We love to hear from you guys. We love the engagement. We definitely really respect it. And all jokes aside, Dave, I love that you posted that. It gave us one of the most interesting discussions we've had on this podcast ever.
Yeah, exactly. I learned a lot about yeah.
Not to mention maybe potentially controversial. I think we were kind of borderline getting into like
our ignorance, controversy through ignorance.
Yeah, ignorance and there is maybe some things of racism there, right? In terms of like not understanding people's language and and appropriation, kind of taking another culture's words and kind of adapting it. Like there's a lot of potential controversy there. All sparked by Dave's tweet. So yes. Yeah. Okay. So episode 50, we should call this episode Dave's tweet is what we should call it. But
it's taken over.
Yeah. Enough about, you know what? I'm going to throw out a challenge to Dave. Every episode, he should write one tweet that we should talk about, and we'll call that.
We'll make it a segment. Yeah, we'll make it a segment.
Yeah, we'll definitely make it a segment called Dave's tweet. Okay, let's get on to our regular segment, regular scheduled programming. I've noticed that you have a deceiving like haircut. Like you don't actually have a haircut, I'm assuming, but your hair is tucked back and blurred out in a way that it looks like your hair is cut right now.
Yeah, I guess maybe just the how the Skype AI is. No, it's definitely there. So
yeah. All right, so
I think I'm coming up on a year exact. I don't know if it's been a year, but
you haven't cut it at all for 1 year.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Wow. Yeah. I did it mid pandemic, so I did it around August. So I'm kind of
that's probably smart.
All right. So what is on top of Aaron's deceiving haircut and under his hat?
So yes, again, apologies, especially for our audience members named Dave Hamill. But I'm going to continue touching on some Apple stuff. But it's actually the thing is not specific to Apple. It's just kind of I will be talking about them again. But I saw a very interesting article someone wrote, basically going over. So they call it the $3,200 new Apple ecosystem, and this is American, so $3,200, whatever, 20,000 Canadian, whatever it is.
Hold on, where did you read that? Where did you come across this? It was in Apple News.
This is on Medium, but I think I must have seen it on Twitter or something.
Yeah. Either way, not on Apple News.
No. Yeah, this is on Medium. So what all this article is basically if you were to go out and every kind of device that you could imagine to use, basically, right? If you went out and basically bought everything Apple, right? What would it cost, right? And what do you get, right? And so this was really surprising to me. It's funny how how when you look at things individually, they might seem expensive, but then if you kind of add a bunch of stuff together and you step back, you're like, oh, actually, that's not that much, right? Because I feel like maybe in your mind, everything is especially because you anchor on an iPhone's $1,000, whatever, right? So then you think, oh, everything you have to buy is that much, right? But it's not, right? And so this is what you get for 3,200 American again. The new AirPods Max, you get that.
And, that's in there. Okay.
Yeah, so that's in there. So this is basically I guess this is sort of if you were to go out and basically I want to all the things in my life that I need that I could be entertained by. I'm gonna buy it. I'm gonna buy all Apple stuff. So AirPods Max, HomePod Mini, which is the new one, the smaller.
That's funny. The first two that they listed, if I were to tell somebody, okay, you go out and you get a bunch of Apple stuff, those are the first two I wouldn't It's funny because those are two of the few Apple products that I don't own, actually. I don't own AirPods Max and I don't own a HomePod.
But you own, okay, with AirPod, you own some version of it, and arguably with the HomePod Mini, you sort of own it just in the devices itself, right? With Siri, right? You don't have a speaker, but you're right though. So it's funny. I don't know why they chose the iPhone 12 Mini, but that's in here. I think this is sort of what would be the ultimate kind of 2021 Apple package, right? So they mentioned the iPhone 12 Mini, which is a great phone, M1 MacBook Air, the Apple Watch SE, the iPad Air, and I think that's it. So you get all that. It's and these are not the lowest end devices, right? If anything, some of these are the best things you can get on the market, right?
Well, that's why I'm surprised with the Mac,
right?
The Max or the Pro Max is in there because to me, if I were saying, okay, you need to get everything you can get, I would get the M1 MacBook Air, AirPods Pro, Apple Watch. I have a 6 and I love it, so maybe I'd recommend the 6.
Yeah,
probably iPhone 12 Pro or just 12 maybe. And then iPad Air actually probably that.
I think that this article definitely is centered around if the home. So I think the reason they chose the Max is because if you're not really going out and stuff, they would probably be pretty sick headphones just to use around the house. And same thing why you probably don't need the most expensive iPhone if you're just at home, right? The Mini is great. But it's kind of crazy. That sounds like a ridiculous list of stuff, but when you look at it, maybe it's because like again, you and I are familiar with. I'm pretty sure there's a point in time where a MacBook was $3,200, right? Like
My very first MacBook, or sorry, the very first Mac laptop I ever got was $4,500.
Yeah.
And that was after like a $700 discount.
and it
or
probably
something
wasn't
like
even
that.
the most expensive one you can get, right? Like you'd probably spend even more, right? Like you probably max out
Yeah,
something,
yeah.
right? So it just blows my mind because again, these things are so good now. Like again,
Yeah.
that M1 MacBook Air is
Oh, it's insane.
like crazy good. All these things are just like, really great devices. So it's just really interesting how like when you hear it on that level, it just shows you how far things have come, right? The fact that just a few years ago, that's how much you'd spend on a single computer, right? Now you get these amazing devices that you can like basically outfit your entire house, right? With. So I just think that's kind of like, when you look at it, that's kind of crazy. And then it got me thinking like, why is this not more of a thing from, like many different companies? Like, I feel like you have to choose so many individual things, right? Like, why don't you see like bundles, right?
Yeah,
Where you're just
yeah.
like, I want to buy all this stuff, right? I don't want to choose and compare and stuff like that. Just give me a bundle, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's from Apple or Google or like Samsung or whatever. I feel like that actually makes a lot of sense. And maybe you can have different tiers, right? Because maybe there's like one where like it's more suited to on the go, where you have more things that are, smaller and things like that. Maybe you have stuff that's for the professional or your office or whatnot. But I feel like this is something that like makes a lot of sense. And again, in the grand scheme of things, if that's like basically all the electronics you need, in your life. And I know you'd buy things at different times, but I'm just surprised that we don't see kind of more of that.
Well, you know what? I think that's really what it is. Cause like, so like I'm actually really lucky right now. Like most of my stuff lined up in the last year where I happen to have a really nice iPad, a really nice watch, a really nice MacBook, and a very good phone. Like, I mean, the phone is getting a little older. It's 3 years old now. But like iPhones these days are just like so stellar, right? And I mean, to be honest, a good chunk of that I have to thank Breton for, because she bought them for my birthday and for Christmas and stuff.
Yeah.
But like, it was nice that it was like kind of a good time to get that stuff, and everything lined up really well. And I have to say, when I have all my Apple devices working, like are quite new and working quite well, it's like such an amazing experience.
It's great, right? Yeah.
But exactly that's the problem, though. I think the majority of people, and myself included, it just happened this way. But like, the buying cycle of these things don't quite line up, right? They're
Right.
like, and to be honest, a good chunk of these things, like a phone, a computer, maybe not really a tablet, but headphones, I'd say, are kind of things that like once the old one dies or is kind of on its way out, you kind of need the new one right away, right? Like you're not gonna
definitely.
like if my computer dies, I'm not gonna wait for my iPad to die and my AirPods to go and all this stuff, and then everything lines up, right? I do think it's what you said. I think it's really the buying cycle, but you're right though. It would be kind of cool if even just a little bit.
You basically did. You kind of did that this year, right? Because like none of your things were necessarily like straight up broken or anything. Right?
Yeah, true,
like,
true. Yeah,
right. So you basically sort of bundled, right? And you're right. Like I think again, I think that it's a fact of now there's more and more value to these devices working together, right? Because like that's again, if that wasn't the case, these devices would not be worth what they are, right?
Yes.
Like again, an Apple Watch, the only reason it's like valuable at all is because it has to work with your phone, right? It relies on your phone, right? So So I think there's like sort of maybe now we move into an era where like these things are so tightly connected that it would really suck to buy something that doesn't work with like the other thing you bought, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's something interesting there, but anyways, I think it's like the main thing was just like how far down the cost has come for some of these things, right? And we're talking really high end stuff, but just compared to like a few years ago, when one of these things would cost like the same as 6 of these devices.
Yeah, no, 3,200. I mean, granted, it is American.
Yeah,
but that does seem quite low to get, some of the best, tech out there for sure.
Yeah.
And again, AirPods Max, I mean, you knock off $400 just by not getting the Max, you know, and just getting regular
Exactly.
AirPods Pro,
Yeah.
right?
It's
So-
because all these devices, the price has actually come down quite a bit. You know,
Yeah.
like again, you can get that base MacBook Air, and that is like as fast of a computer as pretty much anything else they have, right?
Well, I think that's really it. That's
Yeah.
the main one, because I would say the other things, and I know like we talked about like them being worth it, but still they're expensive, right? Like AirPods Pro, like as good as they are, and again, like I remember you talking about how they're kind of like a platform. That's true.
Yep.
It's still a lot of money to spend on earphones,
Yeah, definitely.
right?
Yeah.
But a computer you typically associate as being like $1,500, $2,000, you know, kind of in that price range, and one of like actually like basically the most powerful Mac laptop you can get
Yep.
is 1,000 or well like 1,100 Canadian or whatever, or
Yep.
1,200 Canadian, right? So
But it's also
yeah.
these for these other things, these I don't know what you call, they're not low end, right? But there's sort of these other options now that are available. Again, the 12 mini, right? Significantly cheaper than the Pro,
Yeah.
but it's basically as good as last year's Pro, right?
Yeah.
So
But
that
the
helps.
but
Yeah.
I mean the internal. Oh right, yeah. Sorry, because the internals are almost like this year's Pro, right?
There's a lot of features from this year. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So you
yeah.
don't have to buy the top end, but you're getting most
Yeah.
of it, right? Same thing with the iPad Air, right? Like again, for most people, it's just as good as a iPad Pro, right? So
Yeah.
you don't need to get. I think it's because they've introduced these kind of like slightly lower tier devices. Same with the HomePod. Like the original HomePod was crazy expensive, right? It's like $600 or something like that.
Yeah.
But the Mini is a lot cheaper. I don't know what the price is, but
So
I think it's because they
$130 or,
introduced. Yeah, I think it's because they introduced these and the Apple Watch SE, right? That too. It's significantly cheaper than the top end Apple Watch, right? And you get 80% of the features, right? So yeah, I think that's a big deal as well. Is just sort of like it used to be they only had one of these, right? They only had like an inexpensive option, and now they're offering these kind of lower.
I'm trying to think of an industry or a company that has successfully done kind of any kind of bundle like that.
Bundling,
because
yeah.
like
Yeah.
I can't think of any. Like I think even if you think about like appliances in your kitchen or something, right? Where it's like, oh,
Yeah.
get all, but like even then, you're after you've gotten one, you usually are like,
They last
oh,
so long, right? Like it's
yeah. I'll replace the fridge first, and then I'll replace this, and then like it's really rare that you're like, oh, I'm gonna replace them all at the same time or something
Yeah,
like that. Right?
maybe video games. Like, I mean, I don't know if it's still the case anymore, but do you remember like consoles and stuff? Like they used to
Yeah.
sell them as like you can get these bundles, right? Either with certain games or
Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
too. There's ones that had like peripherals with it.
Yeah.
So that's the closest I can think of. But yeah, I'm not saying this is a something that is going to get like mass adoption, but I think there's a niche there for some of these companies to do
Yeah.
some sort of bundling, right? Maybe a bit of a discount too, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they must be thinking about it a little bit, right? Because they do kind of throw in like free AirPods and stuff like that during their education discounts.
And there's
stuff like that,
services now too, right?
Yeah,
I think you get
or
like
bundles.
Apple TV Plus for a year. They're doing bundling with the services now, right? With Apple One and things like that. So yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of the iPhone 12 mini, actually, I was quite disappointed to hear that they've cut back on the production and they're not selling as well as they'd hoped.
Yeah. The
Because-
sales weren't as
Yeah, because that was definitely the one I would have bought. And
Do you think this is like? Why do you think? I mean, okay, like, have you like thought about why you think people just aren't buying these?
I don't know.
Because it seems like it should be doing really well, right? It seems like
Yeah.
Again, like it seems like a lot of people were hungry for smaller
small
devices,
phone.
smaller phone.
Yeah.
So I mean, unless it's one of those things where maybe when it kind of came down to it, people were like, maybe I don't want it that much. Like people like the idea of maybe smaller devices, and then when they had to go
Yeah.
and choose, like I don't know.
You know what's funny too? I didn't watch a lot of reviews, but I watched a couple reviews. I can't remember exactly who. The Verge for sure. Maybe Engadget or CNET. I can't remember. And they are the same way. They're like, oh, this is the one I would get as the 12 mini. Like people like
Right.
Like I would. Yeah. Anyways, I mean, I just hope that it doesn't like send a signal to Apple that they're not going to make these anymore, because I was so before they announced it, I was so tempted to buy an SE2 because I was like, oh man, this is a small phone, and they're not gonna make small phones anymore. And then the 12K, I was like, yes, you know, they made a small phone again. But again, it wasn't in my buying cycle. So I really hope, like, I really hope they continue to make smaller models. Like that's yeah. So I don't know where to start. Jeff Bezos is stepping down.
Yeah, that was pretty gigantic news, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess he's not like it's not like he's like quitting and you know just piecing out to nowhere. He's executive chairman, right? Basically, Bill Gates. I think Bill Gates pulled the same move at some point.
Yeah, like basically he's on the board, right? But just not involved in the day-to-day operations kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you have to imagine that even if he lost 50% of his fortune, he's still like crazy rich. You know?
I mean, he's at the level where like I don't think it matters, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's big. I mean, I don't know. I was kind of surprised because it seemed like you know, it's I don't know about you. Like I think again, I feel like Bezos is a lot more like the face of what you consider like as who leads Amazon than
yes.
Like again, Bill Gates like very heavily associated with Microsoft, but there's other people, right? Like,
but I have to
other
say,
faces of the company.
I have to say though, Jeff Bezos is probably one of the most successful, but least like who draws the least of my interest. Like I find like it would be like if the guy from Alibaba stepped down.
Yep.
You know, I'd be like, this guy is crazy. I've heard a lot about him, but I don't really have any. Like, I've never really taken an interest.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, obviously Steve Jobs, I had a huge interest in. So you know, when he stepped down, like before he passed away, like even that was a little bit shocking. I think if Elon Musk stepped down, I think that. I mean, it wouldn't be.
That's true.
It wouldn't be unexpected because he seems to just do whatever he wants. But it would be a little bit like, oh man, that's crazy that he's stepping down or whatever, right? Jeff Bezos, don't get me wrong, I have a huge respect for the company and what he's done, and like it's not like I don't like him. Like to be honest, I just don't know. I don't know much about him. Like I have no idea. I've never really watched interviews with him. I've never really read up about him. I've never really heard much about him. And to be honest, like. I mean, Amazon, I feel like even in the last 5-10 years, like, has only recently become such a mega, like, company. Like, I feel like Amazon was just quietly being successful in the background and no one really noticed.
Yeah, because, like, originally, I think it's 1994, I think he originally started it. So,
okay.
So, I mean, he's been at it for a while, right?
Yeah.
It seems... Yeah, it's one of those things where, like, maybe to a lot of people it seems like a very recent success, but it's not really. Right?
Yeah. I remember when one of my friends interviewed. Friends is a strong word. More a colleague, like went and interviewed for Amazon, and I remember like it's such a stupid question, but in my head I was like, really, Amazon has software engineers? Like, of course they have software engineers, right? And this was even before I knew about AWS, obviously, but like yeah. So I mean, I feel like Amazon is just one of these companies that. I don't know a ton about. I have a kind of respect for them based on like you know, I'm more interested in things like the logistics of Amazon, right?
Sure.
Like how do they manage to ship this stuff? And I remember watching a video on YouTube about like the logistics of Amazon and them purchasing planes and all the stuff like that. Yeah, you know, stuff like that. Like that kind of interests me. But you know, I feel like the thing about Steve Jobs is that he knew how to put on a show, basically, right? He was like he was a great showman, right? I mean, I feel like he's the one who really popularized like big keynotes and big product announcements and stuff, right? Like Jeff Bezos, I've never seen Jeff Bezos on stage introducing like now we're introducing 1-day shipping, you know, like it was just there all of a sudden, right?
Right.
So,
yeah, no, it's. I mean, it is a really good story. You're right. It's probably lesser known than you know, obviously Steve Jobs and others. But yeah, there's actually a really good book. I think it's called The Everything Store. But it's a crazy story. Like, I mean, the fact that like the original idea was basically make physical bookstores like digital, right? Like,
Okay. Yeah.
and so it's crazy to think that it stemmed from that. Like all they were doing before was basically an online book catalog, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can sell books. And his big thing was there's some really, again, he's a very clear thinker, and the whole thing originally was the largest bookstores at the time, and it's kind of sad because like I guess we still have like chapters and stuff, right? But obviously way less bookstores, traditional bookstores than it used to be. But I was watching a video of him saying that the largest like mega bookstores ever could hold maybe 170,000 books, like unique books, unique titles. And within a few years of Amazon, I think like Amazon already had 2 or 3 million books. So he's basically saying like, basically like that's a huge differentiator, right? Because physically you can't hold that many books in one place. And then good luck trying to, even if you could, good luck trying to like walk into a bookstore with 2 million titles and find what you want, right? So but it's crazy how it started from that and then it just grew, right? Like it's like how do you turn that into they run most of the internet's back end?
I know.
You know what I mean?
That's
like
such a weird story, right?
Yeah. So it's and actually, so I don't know if you know the guy taking over as a new CEO.
No.
Is the guy who basically created and runs AWS.
Oh, okay.
So that's interesting because that might mean like they're going to lean even more into
like
cloud
was AWS like, was it Jeff Bezos' idea, or like how did that come about? Like did he have an idea and just hired a guy to say, hey, you got to build this? Or
yeah, I mean, again, it's as much as like who knows how much they've even publicly announced about this stuff, and like any ideas like this, I don't think it was just one moment, right, where it was just let's create this. I think what I know of it is it initially did not start off as like, hey, here's a new business. I think it was literally they needed to upgrade their internal infrastructure, right? Because again, the amount of traffic they were having, there was this huge kind of, and I actually think that the story was, it used to be that how you did servers and stuff is you just basically hired a bunch of physical servers from IBM. Like you basically bought really expensive physical machines from IBM. And so I think they had a whole thing where basically they're like, very new at the time, instead of buying these expensive servers from IBM, they're like, let's create our own, like build our own servers using that run Linux instead of Windows, and they're going to be 1/10 of the cost or something, right? And so apparently they were successful at doing that, and then they're like, wait a minute, like, one, we have like 80% of the capacity just sitting around when it's not the holiday season. So what do we do with it, right? So it's like, oh well, like maybe we can rent it out to other companies that want really cheap hosting, right? And then once that was successful, I think they're like, oh, this is actually a business here, right? Because other companies want what we did, right? So again, it's a really interesting story. I think there's like a ton of like, we don't hear a lot about it, but I think there's a ton of really interesting stories with Amazon. And I mean, I feel like out of the current, I guess, CEOs around, I feel like it's basically him and Musk. And I mean, I don't even know if I can think of too many other people that like CEOs that I would say are like the top CEOs in the world. Like right now. But I put them like in that class, right, along with like Steve Jobs and
No, totally. Lastly, before we close off, I just want to mention that I believe, unless it's a fake video, and sometimes I do fall for fake videos on YouTube, but I think this one's real. The season 3 trailer for Final Space dropped actually.
Ooh, yeah.
But you know what? Come to think of it,
did you watch the second season?
So I'm halfway through the second season. I've been halfway through the second season for about a year now.
I think I'm in the same boat, which maybe that tells you something.
No, I still think it's awesome.
You still think it? Okay. Yeah.
I still think it's pretty awesome, and I think it's an awesome show. I think it's one of these shows. I think it's one of these cartoons that, like, first of all, I think the animation looks gorgeous, and again, I actually had a little bit of insider info on this, which I think I talked to you about. But basically, a guy who worked in my office as a storyboard artist, and at least for the first season, maybe the second season as well, the animation studio that does it is in Ottawa. And
that's right.
Jamfilled, I believe they are. and he heard that production was like really stressful for the animators because like apparently like again like this is where I actually first kind of heard about the term like sitcom when it came to describing cartoons, because like a lot of cartoons are sitcoms in the sense that they use the same backgrounds and the same sets and stuff like that, and the kind of the same camera angle and stuff like that. So like if you're kind of doing an animation of two people sitting in like an apartment, if it's the same shot, you can use the same background for every episode and you're okay, right? But if the director says, okay, I want now a shot from low down, a shot from the side, a shot from this, whatever, you have to draw that room from every angle, right? In traditional animation, right? Yeah. So apparently Final Space was like that because Final Space was so like cinematic and stuff like that. Apparently it's really stressful. I
mean, it's awesome. Like, I don't know, like whatever they did, like it's awesome to just watch visually, right? Yeah.
Right. And so I really like that. And I do find it's really heavy in a good way. Like the show feels very like heavy, basically, like in terms of like, there's some pretty sad moments and pretty serious moments. And it seems to not be like an occasional thing, which is okay. I like that. Like I like how Futurama and Simpsons and stuff like that, I like how like they're generally a comedy, and then every now and then there's this really heartstring tugging kind of episode. Final Space seems to be pretty serious. Like, there's jokes inserted there, but it seems to be pretty serious for a good chunk of it. But what I was going to say was, I know that Final Space is on TBS and bought by Netflix, and as far as I know, has no association with Adult Swim. But I'm pretty sure the channel that had this trailer was Adult Swim. So maybe that's not right.
This might not be them. Yeah.
But why would Adult Swim wouldn't? I can't imagine a major TV network YouTube channel would post a false video. So
we'll confirm, and either way we'll post whether it's fake or real. We will check out the show notes.
And if you haven't watched the first season and a half, you should definitely watch at least the first season and a half. I'm not gonna. Okay, cool. We're coming to a close here on episode 56 of the ETC Podcast, Season 7, Episode 2. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, be sure to email us at podcast.etc@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at the ETC Podcast, or go to our official website, anchor.fm/the-etc-podcast. You can also leave a voice message there, and you can also view this whole podcast in video form on our YouTube channel. Definitely subscribe, like, and comment, and do whatever you want, but we love the engagement. And don't forget, Dave, we expect a tweet every single week from you. All right. But as for now, that is it for episode 56. That's 50 plus 6 and 76 minus 10 on this wonderful February 4th, 2021. My name is Casey Lee, and sitting across the city from me, as always, is
Aaron Zedekar.
We'll see you guys next week.
I think it's Titan.